How you doing, fifth graders? Today we are going to work on the math lesson, chapter 14, lesson number 7, which is dealing with surface area of prisms. However, to start with, we're going to do a quick review of what Mrs. Lund taught, which was 14.6, dealing with volume. Okay? As you remember, the formula for volume is equal to length times width times height. So you have the three numbers, which is why it always has to have a label of whatever the units are cubed. So you always want to check for that when you're doing volume. In this case, you have these three numbers, so you would plug them in. And the order is not that important because you can change a box. If this is the volume, it might be held that way, it might be held that way. So the order of which the numbers are does not matter. If I wanted to do 7 times 3, that would equal 21. And then that 21 times 8. And again, you are allowed to use your calculator. 21 times 8 would be 168. And the label would be yards cubed. That's how you would write it. Another example, again, you can go in whatever order you want using the same formula. If you wanted to do 12 times 5, you would get 60. And then 60 times 8, you just do the 6 times 8 is 48, add the 0. And you would end up with 480 centimeters cubed. Again, you have the three numbers, so you put a 3 up there. This shows an example of what Mrs. Lund had done at the end, where there is a fraction. Now, 1/4 can be converted into a decimal. However, it should be one of those decimals that you are aware of. It's one of those that you want to memorize. 1/4 always is like saying if you have $1 and you split it up into 4 equal parts, one of those parts would be a quarter, which is 0.25, okay, like 25 cents. By the same token, 2/4 would be like a half, or 50 cents. 3/4 would be 75 cents, or 0.75. Those are ones that you want to kind of memorize. But you can always just divide it out, 1 divided by 4, and your calculator will come up with the decimal for you. Any fraction can be done that way. So in this case, I would multiply 5.25, because I would convert it to a decimal, times 3 times 9, and in your answer, it would actually come up with 141.75. Okay? And again, the 0.75 is like 75 cents, which is 3/4, 3 over 4. Okay. All right. Today's lesson, we're going to be dealing with finding surface area of a rectangular prism. The new vocabulary would be surface area. All right. Now, surface area looks like what you're doing with volume, because you're going to have the three areas, but instead of with volume where you're seeing how much something can hold, how much you can put in it, for surface area, all you're doing is going back to what we were doing with area. Area is nothing more than length times width, or base times height, which is you just look at the surface, one flat surface, you do height and a base, and then you do that surface, and then you do that surface. So there's 6 faces. All you're doing is all of the faces. Okay? All right. So if I were doing this one, I would want to do the front of this surface is an 8 by 3. And again, I'm only doing the area, so I just want that flat surface. So it's 8 times 3 is, kids? 24 centimeters. Now again, I'm doing area, which is only 2 numbers, so it will be centimeters squared. Okay, so that would be the front. By the way, if the front is 24, well then the back would also be 24. Okay, the top, I have 4 here, and this would be 8. Again, that's the same. So 4 times 8 is? 32 centimeters. And again, I'm doing area, so it's squared. Okay. The last one I have to do, we have a height of 3, a base, again, all of those would be the same, so 4, 4, or 4. So 3 times 4?
12.
And it's centimeters squared. Okay. Now, since the top is going to be exactly the same as the bottom, I can double 32 and get 64. Since the front is exactly the same as the back, I can double 24 and get 48. And since the right side is exactly the same as the left side, I can get 12. All of the labels will be centimeters squared. So all I have to do is add those up. We have 8 and 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Carry the 1. 4 and 6 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. 124.
12 and 12 would be 24.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to double it. 24. My mistake. Thank you. So we have 8 and 4, which is 12, plus 4 is 16, carry. And then we have 6 and 4 is 10, 12, 13. 136 centimeters squared. Again, we're dealing with area. So that's the area, the flat surfaces of the whole thing. And it shows doing the same steps that I did, where they double each one. Top and bottom, front and back, the two sides, add all those up, and you get 136. And again, square centimeters, because you're multiplying only two things. You're just finding area. Find the surface area of that one. Again, we can do each one. Let's do the top. The top would be a 6 times 4, which is 24, and in this case, it's meters squared. The front, which is in this case, that number would all be congruent or the same thing. So we have a 2 times a 6. 2 times 6, 12. Here we have this measurement, which is a 2, and that measurement, which is, again, a 4. 2 times 4 is 8 meters squared. Okay. Double each one of them because the top and the bottom are the same. So 24 double would be 48. 12 doubled is, this time I'll actually double it, is 24, and 8 doubled is 16. Add those up. We have 4 and 6 is 10, plus 8, 18. And then we have 5 plus 3 is 8. So the total would be, and our label, again, meters squared, because we're only multiplying 2. Hopefully we'll see if we got it right. Got lucky. All right. Now sometimes they will just give you the numbers and they will not actually give you a box. My advice and what I have told kids for years is just draw your own box. Okay? Doesn't matter if the sizes are exactly the same. Just draw a box and you can fill in your numbers. Inches long, so I'll say that's 13. Okay? Height, it says depth is 4, so I'll put that there. Inches wide or height, doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you put the measurements in there, even if it's not perfectly the way that it's supposed to be. And then you can go ahead and find the surface area of each one of the faces and doing exactly the same. I'll erase this because it's going to be right over the top of it. Top and the bottom, again, would have been a 13 by 4. Double it, and you get 104. Then you had the 13 by 7. Double it, because it's multiplied by 2, 182. A 7 by 4 would have been the two sides. Double it, and you get 56. Add all of those up, and you end up with surface area of 342 square inches. Don't forget, you can use your calculator if you want to, but it's not bad practice to take some time and do some double-digit multiplication. Last one. Again, I would highly recommend just draw a box. Doesn't take that long. And plug in some numbers. So this might be my 9 this might be my 12, and this could be my 4. Okay? And they're all inches. So then I would multiply 9 times 12. I would multiply 12 times 4, and here it would be 9 times 4. I would get those answers, double each one of them, and when I totaled it up, again, if you have a calculator, you can do this. When you total it up, you should end up with 384 inches squared. Square units because we're dealing with area. All right. Hopefully that helped out. Please feel free to watch it as many times as you want. And again, use a calculator. Good luck, and we wish you all well.